When narcissists avoid hoovering because of shame, they hate it. Have you ever wondered why a narcissist would suddenly go quiet, refuse to engage, or even avoid contact after causing chaos in your life? We've all heard about hoovering, the manipulative tactic where a narcissist pulls you back into their web after you've tried to break free. But what if the narcissist isn't hoovering? What if they're avoiding it, even when they clearly need your attention and validation? You might think, isn't this exactly when they try to reel me back in? In this video, we will unravel this fascinating, less discussed side of narcissistic behavior. We'll explore why, in certain circumstances, narcissists might avoid hoovering altogether, something that, on the surface, seems contradictory to their nature. And we'll discover why the root of this behavior often lies in a deep and painful emotion that narcissists typically try to bury: shame. But why would narcissists, who are known for their grandiose sense of self, avoid doing something they so often rely on for validation? The truth is, it's because shame is one of the most uncomfortable feelings for a narcissist to endure. This feeling challenges their inflated sense of superiority, making it difficult for them to engage in the hoovering tactics they usually rely on to reassert their control. Keep reading to understand how shame affects narcissists' behavior, why it leads them to avoid hoovering, and what this means for your relationship with them. Let's dive in to understand what's going on behind the scenes when narcissists refrain from hoovering, and why this often has more to do with their internal struggles than any care or concern for you. The root of the issue: shame and the narcissist's ego. We've all heard about narcissists and their need for constant admiration and validation, but there's another emotional layer to them that many don't often see. While narcissists project an image of self-confidence and superiority, they are often deeply insecure. At the core of this insecurity lies an overwhelming sense of shame, a feeling that, if left unchecked, could unravel the carefully constructed persona they spent years building. Shame threatens everything a narcissist believes about themselves, making it one of their most feared emotions. To understand why narcissists avoid hoovering because of shame, we first need to understand the nature of hoovering itself. Hoovering is when a narcissist uses manipulative tactics to suck someone back into their orbit after they've tried to break free. Whether it's through love bombing, guilt-tripping, or pretending to be vulnerable, hoovering is designed to re-establish control and reaffirm the narcissist's sense of power. However, when shame is at play, things change. Shame, for a narcissist, is something they desperately try to avoid. It is an emotional state that directly contradicts the grandiose self-image they have cultivated over time. In fact, the thought of being perceived as flawed, inadequate, or unworthy by others is so intolerable to a narcissist that they will go to extreme lengths to deflect or suppress these feelings. This intense discomfort with their own shame is why, in certain cases, narcissists will refrain from hoovering, even if it means losing control or being perceived as weak. This dynamic is particularly pronounced when a narcissist's behavior has been exposed, or when they've been caught in a lie, manipulation, or some other form of wrongdoing. For them, facing the truth means confronting their own inadequacy, and this is something they would rather avoid at all costs. As a result, they might refrain from hoovering not because they don't want to reassert control, but because doing so would require them to face the shame they are so desperate to hide. Why hoovering becomes an impossible task for a shamed narcissist. Hoovering is a direct attempt to regain power and control in a relationship, but when a narcissist feels shame, it disrupts their ability to do this effectively. A narcissist who is grappling with shame finds it difficult to approach the situation with the same boldness and confidence that typically characterizes their manipulative behavior. If they were to reach out or initiate hoovering, they would be forced to confront the very feelings they are trying to avoid. When narcissists feel ashamed, they often believe that reaching out to someone they've wronged will expose their vulnerability, making them appear weak or inferior. They fear that their efforts at hoovering will only reinforce the negative view they have of themselves. The thought of being rejected or having their flaws pointed out only exacerbates these feelings of shame. This leads them to adopt a defensive posture. Instead of engaging in the usual tactics to reel you back in, they might shut down, retreat, or even act as though they no longer care. In their minds, avoiding hoovering is a form of self-protection. It shields them from the humiliation they'd feel if their attempts to re-establish control were met with indifference or rejection. The narcissist's unwillingness to face their shame also ties into their need for control. A narcissist typically feels empowered when they can manipulate a situation to their benefit, but shame presents a scenario where they feel utterly powerless. They don't like feeling small or insignificant, and any attempt to reassert control that might highlight their flaws would only serve to reinforce their perceived worthlessness. So, rather than engaging in hoovering, they might choose to withdraw, hoping that time and distance will somehow allow them to regain their sense of superiority without having to confront their shame head-on. The paradox: why narcissists still need attention despite avoiding hoovering? While narcissists may avoid hoovering due to shame, they still deeply crave attention and validation. The paradox here is that, although shame makes hoovering difficult, it doesn't eliminate their need for admiration. A narcissist's ego is fragile, and when it isn't fed, they experience emotional distress. But when they feel ashamed, they may resist seeking out that validation directly because of the fear of being rejected or exposed. Instead, narcissists might take a different route to get their emotional needs met. They may use passive-aggressive tactics, or play the victim in subtle ways, hoping to get others to acknowledge them without having to directly confront their shame. This could manifest in social media posts that highlight their struggles, or even in indirect messages to people in their circle, designed to get attention without having to be vulnerable. While these indirect forms of attention-seeking may seem less direct than traditional hoovering, they still stem from the same core need: validation. However, the narcissist's shame prevents them from engaging in the bold, overt hoovering tactics they typically rely on. They still want you back, but they don't want to risk the possibility of rejection or humiliation that might come with a more direct approach. How you can recognize when a narcissist is avoiding hoovering because of shame. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist and you're noticing that they aren't attempting to reel you back in after a separation or conflict, it's important to recognize that this might be a strategic decision based on their emotional state. When a narcissist is avoiding hoovering because of shame, their behavior will likely become erratic and inconsistent. They may go silent for a period of time, only to pop up with an indirect message or comment later on, hoping to get a reaction from you without having to directly engage. In these instances, the narcissist isn't necessarily indifferent to your absence. Rather, they are avoiding the discomfort of confronting their shame. This may be especially true if you've exposed their flaws, caught them in a lie, or made them feel like they are no longer in control. The key here is to recognize that their withdrawal isn't a sign of giving up. It's a form of emotional self-protection, a way to avoid the pain of facing their own flaws and vulnerabilities. This behavior can be confusing, as it may seem like they've moved on, but in reality, the narcissist is simply retreating to deal with the emotional discomfort of shame. Their silence is a reflection of their internal struggle, and it may be a tactic to wait for their feelings of shame to subside before they try to re-engage. Closing thoughts. Understanding Narcissism's Complex Emotional Landscape. Thank you for reading this far. By now, you should have a better understanding of why narcissists, despite their constant need for attention and validation, sometimes avoid hoovering due to the overwhelming presence of shame. Narcissists are driven by a complex web of emotional needs, and shame is one of the most powerful forces that can throw them off course. While hoovering is typically their go-to method for regaining control, shame can make it feel impossible for them to take that step. It's important to remember that narcissists are not inherently bad people. They are individuals grappling with deep insecurities that they have learned to hide behind grandiosity and manipulation. Their behavior often stems from an intense fear of exposure and rejection, and their avoidance of hoovering is just one example of how their emotional landscape can impact their relationships. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist and are currently dealing with their silence or emotional withdrawal, it's crucial to prioritize your own well-being. Understanding that their behavior is rooted in shame can help you navigate the situation with clarity and strength. Stay informed, stay empowered, and remember, you deserve relationships where you are valued, respected, and truly seen. Thank you again for watching, and I hope this video has helped you understand the complex dynamics at play when narcissists avoid hoovering because of their deep-seated shame. If you found this content insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth discussions on narcissistic behavior and other psychological topics. When narcissists do this, they are completely hurt and done with you for good. When it comes to others, does a narcissist truly care about anyone beyond themselves? The answer to this million-dollar question is complex. While the narcissist may feel some form of compassion, the love they experience is not the typical, everyday kind that others feel. When a narcissist decides it's time to move on, they leave a trail of devastation behind them. The intimacy that once connected you is replaced by a frightening void. The issue of closeness lies at the heart of this dilemma. Narcissists face a formidable challenge when it comes to exploring intimacy. They thrive on rage, resentment, and hatred, whereas our core human needs are oriented towards forming loving connections with others. This is a concept that is